to make the working drawing here. Ours might look a bit different because we've got quite some curved edges. And we're going to start by clicking over here, the modeling icon there, and we're going to click create drawing. Once you've clicked that, we're going to click the coffee pot body, the bottom part. And before we click done, just make sure it says ISO A3, and we can toggle that scale later on. It's quite small. We're going to change it from 1 to 3 to 1 to 2. And we're going to change first to third angle, and what we're going to do is going to toggle the precision to 0 so we get nice full numbers. And at the bottom here, instead of a comma, we're going to change that to a period. So that is pretty much what we're always going to do. I will remind you as we go along. We're going to close the properties tab. We don't really need it. And I'm going to move this around to the bottom. The view is correct, it's straight to the front. I'm going to click plus, and I need the top and the side. I'm going to click done. There we go. We're going to click note, and we're going to name our views. So we've got the front, we've got the top, and we've got the side. We can check it over here. We've got the lengths that we need here for the coffee front. So we're going to click dimensions, line length, and we're just going to click the side. Most of the measurements are at the top view or the plan view, so I'm going to do the same, and we're going to do that line length here of that middle piece, but it might be a point to point, we'll see. So if we click that, we actually don't include the curved edges here, so we're going to change, and we're going to click point to point distance. We're going to click this edge here, I don't know if you can see, to this edge here, to get that 110, and the same for the outside. They're overlapping, so I'm just going to drag one of them above. Usually it's the larger one above, so I'm just going to make that the case. We're missing something important here. There is a square. What that square means, it's that it's a square, not a rectangle. So we can change that by double clicking, get a prefix text, and we can click the square. Same with this, prefix text, click the square, and we've got those ready to go. We are missing some center marks, so we're going to do geometries, and we're going to click a center mark, and we should have some center marks over here. That just tells us that it's a rounded corner. Okay. As you can see, before we move on, at the front, we are missing some hidden edges. So the thickness, because it's hollow, is shown here. So that needs to be done here. And remember how to do that. We just click on our model, we double click, and there's this dotted square. We're just going to click that. Same with the side, and same with the top. Right? So that shows us that the coffee, the word is engraved in. You can see there's a depth to that. And it's shown again at the top view as well. The only thing we're missing just now is the radius on the sides. So we're just going to go to dimensions, into radius, and we're going to click into the smaller part and then the larger part. Done. So that's the body of the coffee pot done. We're going to then move on to the lid. So to do that, we're going to go over here to views. We're going to click base view, and instead of the same body, we're going to click another one. We're going to click this and unclick the bottom, so then we only get the lid, so it's shown here. I'm going to click plus. I want the top and the side. Why do we need the top and the side? It usually shows fully all the measurements we would need, and it pretty much makes sure that all details are not missed out. So I'm going to do the same here, which means I might not have space for the isometric, but that's okay. We can find some space for that later. So there is something not quite correct, but I think it should be fine, right? You can see that in this drawing we don't have the side view. It's because it's not really needed, considering it's all the sides the same. You can do the same and not include this side. So you can go back, Command Z, before we put in any of those, and just put in the front and the top. That is okay as well if you want to try and fit it on one page, but it's okay if you have it on 2 pages, because remember, we can screenshot this and put it on separate pages on Google Slides. Right, so this is the lid. I'm going to match it a little bit over here. Okay. We're adding the dimensions again. Remember to include all needed measurements as well as naming the views. So top, and we've got the front. Dimensions, same ordeal. We're going to have the heights here, so that's not correct because I selected line length. We're going to point to give those 2 measurements, right? They might overlap, you might not like it, so you can move this over there, or you can actually drag it out if it's overlapping too much. Again, to view those hidden details, we just need to click the little box there, and that's the top, and we're going to include those same details as we did for the coffee pot itself. So I'm going to start by adding the center marks, which is quite straightforward. It will show up when you hover around the correct spot, and we're going to add the radius. So the inner radius there, and the outer radius there. Right? The last things, it's those 2 measurements. So we're going to dimensions, point to point distance. I'm just going to click that there, and that there. Again, double click for the prefix, square, prefix, square. So that would be all of it. It might be good to name these the lid and the coffee pot, but that's extra. It's okay if you don't. The last thing we do is a section view, which is similar to the model prior, the hook, but this is going to be a bit different because it's not put together, and I'll show you that next. Part to create the section view. So over here, it's a section where the lid and the coffee pot are put together. So it shows how the objects or the CAD model works or fits together. It's very important. We need to go back to modeling because obviously for us, the lid is hovering. So to change that, we can just select the body and we can move that down the way until it meets or somewhat meets a little bit. It's okay if it's slightly off, but remember it can touch now and still be 2 separate pieces. Okay, so once it's put together, we're going to go into modeling and we're going to do a projection. Now it's not going to show it here, so we're going to need to make a new drawing. So we're going to make a new drawing and we're going to select both objects. Again, 1 to 2, and we're going to make those changes. Third angle, 0, 0, period. Close. Okay. And because we're just wanting the section views, so I'm just going to put the base down. I'm going to click the section view. And with the section, you just click the midpoint and you drag that out. And that would show you the section view. You can screenshot that. It's okay if it's not in the same drawing. And I'm going to name this section AA, that's okay. It shows that it's the right section. And we just need to name this front. And we can then project. So there's a button for projection. Oh, this is the base view. If we want, over there for the coffee pot. So dimensions, projection, out to the top, right there, there. So similar to isometric view, the section view doesn't really require any hidden details, as you can see here. So we're just going to name that top, and that would be our section view. And there. So if we click into this, we'll have 2 pieces. So now we can better manage these pieces, but I think instead of having everything kind of crowded around, I might move things a bit further out so I've got better space. And maybe the lid just sits up here. Alright, so I've got enough space to better visualize everything. And in that drawing piece, I'm gonna put the isometric here. So once I click base view, I'm changing the I'm not changing the bodies, I'm changing the perspective. So isometric, add that. And I'm going to name that isometric. Another thing that you can do is you can, before we start a new drawing, we can make an exploded view, an exploded isometric. How do we do that? We're just going to move that body up. And we're going to click that isometric view here. So the best isometric view, usually they don't overlap. So we need to pull that until the 2 parts do not overlap. And that would be enough for that new drawing. So see, when I move it and update it, that's what's happened. We're not going to update that. We're not going to need to update this. Oh. So the last thing we need to do, I keep clicking the wrong thing there, is to add this part. We don't really need any measurements or anything. I'm going to go with the same process. Third angle. I don't need to change these because there's not going to be any measurements. And we're going to change it from the front to the isometric, and this would be called exploded isometric. And sometimes if you need to include that, the scale is over there. should have around 3 drawings dependent on how you've structured or organized your pages. So for one of the drawings, you'd have the component, so the coffee pot itself and the lid with its respected dimensions. You'll then also have, I'm just going to close this, the sectional view as well as the isometric view. And then for the last part, it will be the exploded isometric. Ignore the fact that it says it's outdated. It's because I've moved the lid around. So it's those 3 pages, the components, the sectional with the isometric, and finally the exploded isometric.